Victoria. Welcome to the podcast.
Thanks for having me, Jessica. I'm happy to be here.
I'm so excited to chat to you. Can you just quickly do a bit of a rundown on who you are and what you do for everyone?
Yeah, so I'm Victoria Pippo. Most people call me V. I'm a psychic development teacher. I teach about sovereign psychic development. I run a school called the Sovereign Healer, and everything I do is about safe psychic development. Otherwise, I'm an energy healer. I destroy demons. I get people on their natural path of life. I see what's beyond the veil in people's energies, and I help them get on their natural path of life. So that's my elevator pitch.
I love that. It's so good. And you talk a lot about like multi-dimensional healing and how can you break that down for everyone? What do you mean by that? And how has it been such a powerful part of the way that you work?
Yeah, so I teach energy healing in 5 segments, 5 steps. First thing is how to properly open it. Second one is to find the root cause of whatever that issue is. I like to get as close to time and space as I possibly can. Is it in this life? Is it not in this life? Are we dealing with something generational, maternal, paternal? What side? What age? How many generations? What are we dealing with? If it's in this life, what are we talking about? Are we talking about an attachment, a cord? Those are not the same things. A leak, a tear. What is it? Once I get to the actual root cause, I begin the removal of whatever interference is what I name it, but basically whatever block for anyone who's kind of new here, I remove it. But then I have to restore, and this is where multidimensional healing comes from. And this is one of the biggest errors that I see and gaps in people when they're receiving energy healing is they remove the thing, but then they don't remember that there's all this time lost where they're not on their true path. And so I want to restore all the energy. So I want to line up their mindset in the way that it's intended to be. I want to line up their emotions in their belief systems in the way that it's intended to be. I want to line up the spirit in mind and body. And so that's where the multidimensional aspect comes from. I work on the subconscious. I work through the energetic layer, the mental layer, the spiritual layer to restore. And then I surge. Surge is kind of like a bonus, but I really like to amplify those blessings out. Think if 15 years ago you had a traumatic experience and it has been with you spiritually, mentally, emotionally for the last 15 years, I want you to receive all of those lost blessings. And so the next stage is to surge that out in your present energy, present day at this time. Right opportunities, right connections, right realizations, right time, right space. And then finally, I seal it. This is the most important part, I think, of the entire work. You need to make sure that whatever you have removed in the places of which had opened are now basically surgically sutured or closed in the same way that if I was doing heart surgery, I would not leave my patient wide open on the table.
Yeah.
And so sealing is the final step. And so those are the 5 stages of energy healing that I teach. But really the premise behind it is that the work that we're doing is root cause. And the work that we're doing is restoring on a mind, body, soul level so that they actually are integrated in the work that is completed.
Oh, I love that. And I love the fact that you don't just leave people wide open with their scars, being like, all right then, off you pop. Like it's actually so true. You have to replace it with someone or with something. And it's funny because I actually had a kinesiology session last night. So I was doing all the energy healing on me. And she was saying to me, oh my God, Jess, there's so much darkness and ickiness and all of that all around my stomach area. And she's like, something is in there. Something's like been attached to you. It's just no good. And she ended up doing like a bit of a clearing kind of thing. But then afterwards, she spent so long like getting me to visualize like, what I actually want for myself. A lot of it was actually attached to clients and, people I'd been calling in the last 2 weeks who were just not my vibe. And she's like, well, now we need to visualize what you actually want to call in and what is going to replace that shitty energy. And it's going to be love and people who want to chat and people who are open and want to heal and all that kind of stuff. So you're right. Having the rewiring at the same time is actually just as important as getting rid of what's not serving you.
100%. And this is one of the biggest things that people come to me with. They'll go to a retreat and they'll do the thing, whatever that thing is, and they'll have an unbelievable cathartic, so they think, experience. But a lot of people don't know the difference between something external entering the field and something internal that they're processing.
Yeah.
Meaning some
Hmm.
people don't know if spirit is in the room and what kind of spirit is in the room.
Yep.
Most people just go somewhere or having an experience, and then you add in the fact that they're having an experience with a bunch of other energies they don't know.
Hmm.
And so what ends up happening is, God forbid, the facilitator doesn't have any understanding of actually what is unseen and how to discern or invoke or protect a space. And then what ends up happening is it's like one attachment just bleeds into the entire room and people leave completely exposed, completely open, like you would imagine on a heart surgery table. And they thought that they had some sort of alchemical, beautiful process in the name of that is just a part of the process. And then months, years later, the barrel effect of what happens by not restoring the energy is so unfortunate.
Yeah, it's true. And I love the fact that you talk about like discernment in this space and like spiritual discernment. What do you mean by that? And how do you like practice that in whatever
Yep.
that you do here?
So there was a time where I didn't have discernment.
Mm.
So backtracking to when I first had my awakening, 2019 into 2020, I think I was kind of a late bloomer to be honest, but always in perfect timing. When I first started my awakening, I was like obsessed with all of the things. The tarot, the oracle, channeling my grandfather, like connecting with him as my spirit guide, wanting more insights, really finding in some ways a lot of validation, but dependency as well
Mm.
in needing his guidance to help me feel like I belonged in the world. That was always my greatest weak spot was that I never felt like I belonged. I always was a misfit. I always felt like the black sheep. And so when I started to connect with the spirit world, I started to open up my channel. I had all of these beautiful modalities and tools I could use. Right underneath me became this, what I thought was euphoria, but was actually a very dark experience because I had no discernment. I didn't think that there needed to be proper energetic hygiene. I didn't
Mm.
know what that meant about energetic mastery. And so I walked through the world like, this is euphoria. I can channel. This is all what it is. And I had
Yeah.
multiple nefarious entity attachments at the end of 2022, where I would wake up every single night for months feeling like I was being choked by something. And nobody in the spiritual community was talking about the nefarious side of different spirits or demons or ETs. Nobody was talking about
Mm.
evil because it was fear based, because it was not high vibrational, and because it wasn't the ultimate truth. And so I felt so gaslit when I was
Mm.
having this experience. My health started to decline. Thank God for my soon to be husband. I was going through the most unbelievable suicidal ideation. And he would have to like shake me out of it. Like, this is not you, Victoria. And I thought, how fascinating. Being a queer woman, I didn't feel like I had a safe space. Being in the spiritual community, I felt like I didn't have a safe space. And I knew one healer that I worked with in 2019 before my awakening, when I first began with like law of attraction. I got a tarot reading from her and she really changed my life. And I reached out to her and I said, I think something is wrong in my energy. And
Mm.
she said, yeah, I think something is wrong with your energy. She was the only person I had around me that was like, this is evil. Like, there is something that is not okay in your energy field. And that moment on, Jessica, it shifted something for me because I realized that there was no way in hell I would ever be able to awaken like I did before. I
Mm.
was reckless.
Mm.
I thought euphoria meant high vibrational, that everything was one in the highest dimension. So nothing in this game of 3D had any trickery, or there was no such thing as beings that could trick you or manipulate you. I was channeling deities. I was going to different motherships all the time. Like, this is what a lot of us are programmed to think is awakening. For
Mhm.
some reason, when we're children, the first thing we learn from our parents is safety, but then we awaken and we think that we don't need protection, that we don't have to be safe in the awakening world. We awaken and suddenly we awaken. No, I think most people stay asleep just in a different matrix. And
Mhm.
so this is where discernment came from. And I think it's important to acknowledge that to
Yeah.
go into what discernment is for me.
Yeah.
So discernment for me is the hmm feeling in your body. It's not in your mind, it's in your body. You have to be quiet enough and remove enough variables around you to be able to hear that. Hmm. But to me, that is the trigger in your body that is telling you that something isn't totally right. And a lot of times, the challenge is that it can kind of be seductive in nature, where it's not, no, 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 no. It's, sometimes I'm equally repelled as I am compelled.
Mm.
And I can't figure out why. Maybe anyone that's listening right now has somebody that they stalk all the time and they get a very weird feeling about them, but at the same time, they can't stop stalking them. And they've maybe sat with their own shadow, realized it's not comparison. They don't want their life. They're not consumed by their own shadow, but there's this feeling of like there's something off about them, but for some reason, I want to buy into it. This is that discernment metric for me. And 9 times out of 10, it is an indication of some sort of false light, some sort of energy that is not 100% in full truth and full light. Personal opinion on that. And that's something that I teach my students now.
Oh, I love this. I'm all about this. I was the same way. I was like, woo, come one, come all. Like, let's just
Yep.
channel. And then you realize that all of the ickiness starts to follow you around. And then you get depressed. You're
Yep.
fighting. The house feels shit. You're having a terrible bad luck. Like, and I'm not saying that this is something that just happened at the beginning of my spiritual awakening, we could call it, or when I first started to connect with spirit. This is something that creeps up every now and then. It's almost like a bit of a, oh God, I've waited too long to do like a bit of a clear out here. Maybe I need
Yep.
to go and do that again. And I physically notice it, and my wife notices it all the time. Sometimes she'll say to me, oh, Jess, I think you need to do like a bit of an exorcism here because this is
Yes.
not feeling good. And I love that note. Like, she used to be skeptical, but I love the fact now she can sit there and be like, Jess, I don't think this is us. I think there's something going on. I'm like, how
Oh,
good that
yeah.
you know that now. Like, we never would have thought this. And now we're
So
both
true.
so aware of energy because we know what it feels like to feel good, and we know what it
Yes.
feels like to feel shit. We know when it's our fault. We know when it's got nothing to do with us. You can tell the
Yes.
difference when you tune in.
That's exactly it. And I think the thing is we misunderstand the difference between being tuned in and being open.
Yeah.
In the spiritual community, there's such a glorification of being open, but nobody's talking about being closed.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I don't want to be available for spirit all the time. When I'm on a plane, I'm on a plane, girl. When I'm going to the grocery store, I'm at the grocery store getting avocado. Like when I'm making love to my partner, I don't want fucking psychic impressions. Like the shift for me was realizing that being open was not the flex. Being closed was the flex. Having a clear home was the flex. Being able to have balance, health. You know how many psychics you can see their expiry date written all over them
Mm-hmm.
because they're a puppet. They're
Yeah.
a puppet. Like, you want to see, I can channel this person right here, right now. All these beings are coming through. Like, there's no control, and we've glorified being out of control in the name of being trusted.
Mm-hmm.
For me, I'm like, that is such a no for me. It was debilitating for my health. I didn't have any discernment. I had no responsibility or honestly integrity for this work.
Yeah.
And what that meant for me was like, am I making sure that I am the clearest conduit I can possibly be for this work?
Mm-hmm.
Can I make sure that I'm never flipping into resentment, which is totally the psychic healer wound? Making sure that I'm being fucking respected in the prices that I hold, in the business that I have, in the life that I live, in the balance that I prioritize.
Mm-hmm.
And from there, it's like now I can actually channel, and if things want to come through, I'm available because I'm truly tuned in. Otherwise, it's like you got all these channels open. I can't trust you further than I can fucking throw you.
Yeah, it's true. And it's funny because I was actually talking to one of my mentors about this months ago, where I was saying to her, oh my God, I'm just like, I'm loving all my readings, but I'm exhausted after every single one. And I don't know what's going on. And she goes, Jess, it's because you're trying to get every single thing that you possibly can into the one reading. I'm going, let's talk about career, love, the boy, the spirit baby, the this, the that. It's like I was like a puppet, like a monkey, as you say, trying to get all the things. And she goes, Jess, you are never going to sustain being a psychic if you play like that. She's
It's
like,
true.
you have to play slow. And she goes, and it might take a minute for your clients to get used to the fact that you want to flesh things out, you want to go
Yep.
deeper, you're going to slow the communication down, but you're going to get deeper. You're going to get more
Yes.
validation. You're not going to be exhausted after every reading because you're going to be just curious about what it is that that soul needs to hear in the moment. You don't need to touch on
Yes.
every single subject and heal every single wound in one session. Sometimes it might just be about one or two things, but it's exactly what's going on in their world right now. And I didn't think that. I thought I had to jump through all the hoops, but it
Yep.
actually doesn't work and it's not sustainable at all.
The biggest shift that I made was when I stopped offering readings
Mm.
and I started to offer something called a research meditation. Basically, what that
Mm.
means is somebody would come into my world and say, something's off. And I'd go, okay, book in a research. And that would be an MRI in doctor's terms. And so they
Yeah.
would pay me to scan their energy and notice the problem spots and only address the problem spots. I gave them space to be like, here's what I think it is. And I'll go, okay, well, I'll let spirit talk. I don't care what you think it is. I care what it actually is. And I would go into, because usually people are like, oh, and this, like, am I an Arcturian star seed? And like, when is my baby coming? And I'm like, these are all desperate questions that don't actually matter if they're not the right timing. So why would I go searching and forcing information if it's only gonna, one, lead you to psychosis, which I don't want, and two, deliver information you're not ready to hear?
Yeah.
And so I implemented the research where it was like, here's what is coming through right now that is prevalent for you.
Yeah.
And any question you have, I'm not answering it until you hear the research first.
Yeah.
So then everything kind of drew them into this is how it works in like the profession of being an energy healer or the profession of being a psychic.
Yeah.
Instead of I'm a puppet, would you like me to read your palm? Like would you like what I can do this? I can read this. I can tell you this. Like do you trust me? I completely eradicated that and up-leveled the identity of seeing myself like a surgeon, seeing
Yeah.
myself like a doctor. And so it was like, before I even go further, let's get a scan. Let's see what the impressions are. Let's see what's coming through. And from here, that's spirit directing the conversation, which is, in my opinion, the only reason why we should be connecting in the first place.
Yes, it's so true. And one of the things I try really hard now is to ask the question, what does the soul need? What does
Yes.
the soul need right now? Not what the
Yes.
human thinks, what the soul needs. And sometimes this is why I start my readings out. And I might feel a man or a woman stepping forward, but sometimes the first thing I'm saying is a message. It's got nothing to do with them. It's not about the fact that they had blonde hair and they like to play guitar and all that. It's, oh, by the way, we're so proud of you right now because we're seeing this is going on in your life and you're handling it really well. And I think some
Yes.
people think, oh, no, I want to know who it is first. But I'm like, listen to the first thing
Yes.
that comes out of my mouth because it's usually exactly what you need to hear overall in this whole reading. So I think some
Yes.
people dismiss that because they're waiting for all the validations, but the messages
Yep.
are just as strong and just as meaningful as me
Yep.
ticking the boxes about who the person might be. I'll do that later. We'll do it anyway. But I think people
100%.
like disregard. I'm like, the
Yep.
first thing, it's the message, it's the fundamental piece of why we're here. So
Because
listen to what I
people
say.
want what they want, right? People, we are human, right? We're like, tell me when that thing's happening and tell me the thing that I want to hear so that it makes me feel better.
Yeah.
There was a psychic I saw recently. I think she's extraordinary, but there was something that she had said to me about like, you're gonna meet this man and he's gonna say like, I'm gonna create the room for you to build the next iteration of your business. And I can't tell you how thankful I was for that message at first, but then how pissed off I was that it came through because it changed the way that I viewed the moment.
Mm.
Then I started to look at every single man in a space that could potentially offer an opportunity to open the door. And it shifted my natural energy. Instead of like, whoa, this man came through. That's so cool. That was such a fantastic opportunity. It diverted my focus. And so when I'm reading, whether that's because of my spirit guides or just because of my own intention, probably a bit of both, personally try to minimize any sort of like future timeline for people because I know how stubborn people are and I know how desperate people get.
Yeah.
And I want things to happen naturally for them. And
Yeah.
it's been a hard part for my journey because maybe in some ways I have had to navigate some of my own insecurity
Mm.
around feeling like I'm good enough as a psychic and as a healer if I'm not giving such a vivid message that is undeniable, and I'm allowing it to be maybe a little bit more generic on like the thematic level and then very zeroed in on the energy healing level. And as a psychic, I'm not really delivering any kind of like future timelines. It
Mm.
was really hard for me at first to be completely transparent because
Yeah.
same as you, it's like and just the culture of psychics in general, it's very performative. And I
Yeah.
understand because we can't see it, right? So there has to be
Mm.
some sort of evidence, and the more shocking it is, the more potentially people will get it. But I
Yeah.
realized that that wasn't my path.
Yeah. That makes complete sense. And I think that sometimes we need to, you don't know it all the time. We always need to step into what feels right for us.
Yep.
You can't always be, wherever you start is not where you end up. I think we
Yeah.
always start somewhere and we're like, oh
Yep.
yeah, like I studied psychology and thought I was going to be a psychologist. And then I was like, oh no, I don't think I could handle being in everyone's grief every single day. And then fast forward, I'm a psychic medium dealing with grief every single day. It's like, well, I knew what I was going to do. It was just the way that I was going to do it was going to be different. So I
Yep.
allowed that journey to unfold however it did and fought it every now and then as you do. And, now
Yep.
I am where I am and I'm still evolving. I'm still changing. Like if you saw me 2 years ago, I read very differently today than what I did way back when. And I want to continue to grow and learn and evolve and go deeper and all the things. So, yeah, I think making sure that you're sticking true to what feels right for you at the time and you allow yourself to unfold and be authentic, I think that's the best thing. I want to talk about spiritual psychosis. I think that you said something about that before. What is this, and how does it show up when someone's having some form of spiritual awakening? How would you
Yeah.
describe it, or what it feels like?
So, spiritual psychosis is when someone, in short, loses their pulse of reality.
Mm,
They lose their feet on the ground,
yeah,
and then everything becomes allegorical and thematic. Oh, I'm just a soul in this human flesh suit, carbon body, here to transcend the false matrix and access fifth dimensional DNA. Like, who the fuck cares? Like, what do you mean? Like, you're sitting there at the Thanksgiving table and your mind is embarrassed. Do you know what I mean? Like that's spiritual psychosis when life doesn't become life anymore and everything becomes this this fantasy. And maybe in the highest realm all of that is true. But what ends up happening is you start to see everything as not necessarily what it physically is in this dimension.
yeah,
And then from there what ends up happening is you don't know the difference between what is fantasy and what is true. And so then you start to kind of live in this fabricated reality that is not necessarily what is truly happening. And now you're like completely convinced of something because you lost your feet on the ground and then you kept keeping your feet off the ground. And next thing you know, you're not even in the building. So,
yeah.
kind of just like in layman's terms, spiritual psychosis is when we don't keep our feet on the ground in the pursuit of information.
Mm-hmm.
And then what that ends up looking like is you're not even Jess and I'm not even V. And suddenly all you see is like my aura, my light body information. Like there's no real human connection because everything becomes a theme, an allegory, a concept instead of
Mm-hmm.
this reality, this realm, this life, five senses. And so, what I find in the spiritual spaces, how this ultimately manifests is because of the need to try to understand it all
Yeah.
too fast.
Mm-hmm.
Real integration comes like a drip faucet. People want the Niagara Falls. They want all of it all at once in full. I need to understand it all. And in my journey of understanding kind of the flip side of different spirits and demons and ETs that were not necessarily of positivity, I teetered that line so thinly because I wanted to understand why was evil created? Why was there evil? Is it serving the greater purpose? Why did it happen to me? What does that ultimately mean? What's the greater plan? What is like I was starting to become so consumed by the need to grapple with what I didn't understand.
Mm-hmm.
to the point that it started to take and chip away at my mental health and my well-being and my ultimate understanding of this, which is it doesn't actually matter if I understand it or not.
Hmm.
What matters is how it's impacting me, the symptoms that it's impacting my clients, and the fact that it is not serving the path of their life right now. That's all that matters.
Yeah.
And so when I tried to zoom out too much and I became hungry for the information, I lost my feet on the ground.
Mm.
Thankfully, I didn't go so far, but that's really where that line starts to be drawn, where we start to awaken and we need to understand this reality when there's, at the end of the day, infinite information that we're never going to get to the end of. And I think that that's the ultimate trap is that it's like, well, now I need to understand that. And then how about that? And now that I've got that, there's more. Oh my God. And then you
Hmm.
just can't sit at Thanksgiving dinner and eat your fucking turkey without getting into the karma of the turkey and the experience of the potato in a past life. It's like, I'm not here for that. Like, I'm not here for that. I want to eat my Thanksgiving dinner. And my mom be like, I'm so proud of you, not like, I really think she has lost it. Like, I don't want.
Jess stinks. She absolutely stinks. But you know what doesn't stink? A lime glow candle. We have a website. Jess has been telling me off because when I interrupt her podcast, I don't send you to the website. So do yourself a favor and just Google the Lime Glow or go to her Instagram because I'm just going to continue to piss her off and not give you our website. But our brand is called the Lime Glow. Smells better than Jess.
That. I don't want that.
Oh my God, I can't. I've heard people say that like before. Like we're literally sitting around and they're like, oh my God, this is so like 3D. And you're like, no one knows what that means. Oh, I'm just so in my 5D.
Yeah, like I've already transcended the reality of illusion of fear. I'm like, great for you, honey. Like, I'm so happy that you are just so above us all. This is what I would call spiritual narcissism, but have at it. Like, it's
Hmm.
showing and everybody sees it. We're all students. We're all doing the best we can. Nobody's perfect. This game is very intricate. It's
Hmm.
getting really wild. And I am really proud of being a human
Yeah.
that is figuring it out, that just has
Hmm.
some abilities that everybody else can tap into in their own natural way.
Yeah.
And I want it to help people. But I also
Yeah.
want to live a good life and eat and be normal and not be like,
Yeah.
this is so 3D. I'm like, I
I
can't with
know.
like, but that the thing is spirituality becomes this belief system. And within this
Hmm.
belief system, there's all this language that we use.
Yeah.
And then we never get to impact people because no one understands what the flying F we're talking about. Because at the end of
I
the
know.
day, I feel like in some ways we've lost the point. And the point is, what's the point? Not of
Yeah.
life, but what's the point of pursuing the point?
Yeah. Hmm.
And then when do we stop caring about the things that actually matter, which is that we're alive, we have family,
Yeah.
we have love, we have connection, we have joy, we have pleasure, we have senses.
Hmm.
That's fulfillment to me. And that's how I think we maintain awakening without teetering into spiritual psychosis.
Yeah, I agree. We are having a human experience. So sometimes you're going to live in the human. And I think sometimes people get so fixated on spirituality and healing, and they've gone to this class and that class, and they're signing up to this and that. And some people I've sat with, and I'm like, you need to stop now. I'm
Yeah.
like, you've had enough deep diving. Like, you need a minute where you're actually just living and
Yes.
experiencing. It's like when people ask you the same thing over and over and over and over again, like wanting a particular answer. And I'm like, that's not coming through. That's not the
Yes.
answer. I'm like, but I
Yes.
just want to hear this. And I'm like, well, that's not what you're going to get right now because you need to go through that experience. You need to feel it. You need to go through it and learn from it. You're not going to get all the information from spirit. They're not going to tell you all the things because you need to
Yes.
experience this life. And that's part of
Yes.
why you're here to be human and to feel it
Yep.
and to go through it, to learn.
Yep. And if the spirits are benevolent, they're not going to tell you the exact thing you keep pestering for.
I know.
You know, like if they're benevolent, they're going to be like, have a seat.
Yeah.
No. The answer is no. You know, they're not going to lure with you your ego. They're not going to tantalize the part of you that's like, I need this because then I don't feel like they're going to be like, you're feeling like this because you can't feel what you actually need to feel. They're going to be guiding you benevolently and accurately. And if the information's not coming through, it's because that's actually the information for you to sit with and for them to continue to guide you through. So I love that you shared that.
Yeah, I think sometimes we need to actually experience it and you learn from it. And then some people's, even with readings, like if I've had to move someone reading because I'm unwell or whatever, most of the time when I connect with them, like, a month later or a few weeks later, they're like, oh my God, I'm so glad that my readings right now because the last few weeks I've been through all this shit and now I actually feel like I need the guidance. Or they're like, oh my God, I'm so glad I talked to you today because yesterday this happened. I'm like,
Yes.
everything happens for a reason. Spirit are very fucking clever. You just have to
Yes.
trust in the timing of all the things. Honestly, people are push, 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 push. It's like, no, just wait. Because sometimes the
Yes.
magic happens when you're not expecting it and when you're not trying to control and strangle everything.
Yes. And that's the way that I thankfully learned when I grew my gifts. So you said you were going to be a psychologist?
Yeah,
Potentially.
back in the
Okay.
day.
So I was a Disney princess on cruise ships.
No
I was a
way.
performer. Yeah, I have my bachelor in music and musical theater, and for 15 years I was a professional performer since the age of 7. And so I was on Disney cruise ships, had my spiritual awakening, and I was simply meditating in my cabin, and my grandfather came through. And I didn't have the Wi-Fi, I didn't have the tarot readers, I didn't have the astrologers, I didn't have the new age instant accessibility because I was in the middle of the ocean. And the gift was that it came through so miraculously because I had no idea what I was doing.
Yeah.
And the beauty that came when it was just me and him in my cabin was completely different than, I invested in this course and now I'm trying to invoke my grandfather. Like completely different energetics when it comes through in the right time, right space when you're meant to receive it. And that changed me in a different way than the different beings that I had connected with after that from my own will. When it
Mm-hmm.
was thy will, it was like, oh my gosh, this changed my life forever, the fabric of my life forever. When it wasn't that, it was like on to the next, thank you, bye, let's go. Like I
Yeah.
got the dopamine hit. When it
Mm-hmm.
came naturally, it was a paradigm shift.
Yeah. Oh, I love that. And that's the thing, like allowing things to be and to come in natural timing. There's just such a magical element to that. And I want to
Yeah.
talk about your mum because you've done a lot of healing with your mum for herself.
Mhm.
And are you comfortable sharing a little bit about like her journey and how you
Yep.
helped to sort of piece things together for her?
Yeah, so I'm a part of a pretty significant generational curse. Not anymore, thankfully, but my grandmother, mother, sister, and niece are all exactly 30 years apart. They're all 30 years apart from each other.
Oh my God.
And my grandmother had dementia, my mother has progressive MS, and my sister fell off a golf cart and cracked her head and has a TBI. And now suddenly I channel aliens for a living? Like, this doesn't make any sense, right? My niece will find out, but she's very, very, very tapped in. And so my highest hope is that she's kind of the continuation of whatever I've been able to clear, hopefully whenever she clears the karma in my sister's energy,
Mm-hmm.
from my sister's energy, excuse me. But a lot of my childhood was about running away from that. This kind of spiritual understanding that I was here to break something very large in my bloodline.
Mm-hmm.
My mother was always very supportive of my dream, arguably maybe a little bit too much so. I felt like there was a lot of like entanglement and like vicariously living through my success. And, we were basically living on practically food stamps while my mom's also paying for me to get through very elite education to like fulfill this dream. I always just felt like I was like, you know, pulling it together for everybody else. And I moved to New York City, got a job with Disney, worked for Disney, and then had my spiritual awakening. And this was like the first time in my life where my mom didn't understand me. It was like I would call her every day. We would always talk about things while I was simultaneously running away from the fact that I didn't want to be like them, basically, was the way I wanted to
Mm-hmm.
articulate that to myself at the time. And when my awakening happened and I went into like full new age, So I was like full psychic channel, you're so 3D mom. Like all of that was really how I, navigated my family. There was a pretty big separation between us. And at the time, I just thought it was honestly like I'm a curse breaker in my family. Like it is what it is. But then towards the after the entity stuff happened in 2022, going into early 2023, my mother had some very interesting like behaviors towards me that I started to become very aware of. One of the most notable parts was that she would project a lot of this envy type energy towards me, and then I would completely lose myself. I would spiral for days like I'm a worthless human being. I have no gifts, a lot about my gifts. I don't matter. My work doesn't matter. Maybe I should just go back to being a performer. Like that was kind of the spiral that I had went into. And at the time I still had that healer that I was working with, and I had said to her like, with my mom, it's such an interesting like piece of information for me because when I first saw this healer in 2019, one of the first things she said to me was, you think you've got a lot of bad stuff going on with your dad, but I can tell you right now, it's all with your mom. And I remember being like, what do you mean? Like my mom and I are so close. She's like, yeah, that's the problem. And so this led her to, looking into some deeper generational interferences on my mom's side of the family and begin to start to detangle me feeling invisible in my family while also simultaneously trying to be visible and feeling like my gifts were always at bay and stifled spiritually around them. They didn't understand me. I always felt like I wanted to conform to fit what my mom wanted, and then how that kind of bled into my sister and my grandmother and, those behaviors in my maternal lineage. So I did a pretty significant amount of spiritual work. And towards the end of that, my mom and our relationship started to like naturally shift. It was like my mom started to see me more and see me who for I really was. She started to see some of my clients' growth and acknowledge it. And I never felt really acknowledged for my spiritual work at that point because she didn't understand it. She kind of separated herself. I separated myself. And she would said to me one day, like, thank you for the work that you've done for our family. Like, I really see it. And I remember being like, whoa, I can't even believe that you're saying that, considering you don't even really know what I did spiritually. You don't know that I have an energy healer. You don't know any of those things. But for her to reflect that, the energy started to soften and we started to see each other a little bit more energetically. And then I traveled across the coast of Canada. I live in Ontario, Canada at the time, and I was moving to Vancouver, BC at the time. And my mom wanted to drive with me and my soon to be husband across the coast of Canada. It was the biggest trip she had ever done. And she wanted to do it. Her mom had just passed. She was in a deep grief. She wanted space. And on the first day, my mom was a little bit cranky, typical mom behavior, didn't really know what you were going to get from her, a little bit space cadet. Next day, she's like, wakes up a little bit bright, but is like, I'm not really feeling well. Like, I said, okay, well, would you like me to do some energy work on you? And she was like, yeah, I would actually think I would. I said, okay. I was so nervous. I was doing energy healing on my mom, in front of my mom. Like, most of the time, I'm doing my work remote, and now my mom's sitting there on video and I'm trying to do energy work on my mom and I'm like pooping my pants because I'm like, I hope that she doesn't think I'm like, now she's totally gonna think I'm batshit. But what was so beautiful is my mom had all of these like little tremors that were moving through her body when I was releasing for her. To my very vague knowledge of MS, they're like called shudders. And when you have one, you get this beautiful release afterwards. And as I was working on her, she was having all of these shudders along her spine and had this extraordinary release. And was like, I feel so good. Like I could feel your heat alongside me. Like, wow. And then we drove 7 hours. Next day, she's feeling great. Next day, she's not. She asked me for a little bit of support. And by day 7, my mom was feeling like I had never, ever seen her before. Mind you, my mom's symptoms were always like vomiting profusely one day, next day feeling okay, then having a migraine, being debilitated. My mom's symptoms are very consistent. And the final biggest breakthrough was that my mom had been dependent on oxys, they're like a painkiller, for 2 decades. And in that 7 day stint, without telling myself or Hayden, my fiance, she completely stopped taking her oxys in those 7 days for her pain. And so I had done 2 sessions on her. And then when we arrived in Vancouver, she had horrible back pain because of the lesions in the bottom of her spine. I did about 5 minutes of energy work and she went on a hike with us. And it was just like that completely shifted everything. She wrote me a testimonial for my business now. And it's gorgeous. It's like, I'm your everyday skeptic, don't you know it? But I can tell you, like, she has these abilities. Like, it is the sweetest thing I have ever seen, Jess. And it's such a beautiful testimony to trusting timing,
Yeah.
on both parties. Like, her trusting me in the timing that I would come around, and, me trusting her in the timing that maybe she would understand. And it's like I came around and she understood, and then we were able to actually do some really beautiful work together.
Oh, I love this. Such a good feel story. I'm so glad I asked you. It's amazing what energy healing can do. I'm telling you, like, you might just think that, you have physical symptoms, that's just the way your body is. But a lot of the time, you can actually shift a lot of what's going on internally through
Yes.
just connection and
Yeah.
understanding and tuning in. It's amazing.
Yeah, it was so fascinating to me that obviously the root cause of my mother's MS I'm not able to get to in a session with her because it was not something she was ready for.
Yeah.
It's pretty clear that once we unpack the can of worms that is my mother's life, I don't believe that that's my place to do that. I don't
Yeah.
believe I could objectively do that, to be completely sincere with you. I would never put that type of responsibility or work in my hands because I'm
Yeah.
too entangled emotionally with my mother. And if
Hmm.
you can't do it unbiased, you don't do it.
Yeah.
So that's
I
part of
agree.
it. But also to be able to even just bring a little bit of relief to her and
Mm.
for her to instantly receive it was a sign that there was no stubborn energy between the energy work and her field. And that was the biggest thing for me, was that she had within 5 minutes, like a Tylenol would in, 10, 15 minutes, a complete shift of energy, of vitality, of positivity, of well-being, which was a huge step forward for her as well as it was for me.
Oh, I love it. Oh, I've loved this conversation with you. I'm so happy we did it. Before I get into the most random questions that my wife has prepared for you earlier, can
Yeah.
you just tell everyone where they can find you, how they can connect with you, and all the things?
Yeah, honestly, I just trust that the right people are going to find me, Jess. I could go on like a here's how you can find all my. But honestly, I'm sure you're going to have a show note. I'm sure people are going to
Yeah.
find it. We're in 2025, you guys. This is not generated by AI. Search Victoria Pippo and figure it out. So that's what I'm going to say. It's like if you're meant to
I
be
love
there,
it.
you'll be there. And if you're not,
Yeah.
thanks for spending 40 minutes with us.
Makes me laugh. I will put all your details in the show notes so people can
There you
find
go.
you.
See?
So good. I love it. All right, your first random question is, why does the hair on your head get split ends, but your arm and leg hair doesn't?
Oh, my first answer was because of not me thinking because I have iron deficiency, so my hair gets split ends. I went to
Like,
get my hair done, and he was like, "You have iron deficiency. You need to eat more red meat." That was like the first
no
thing
way.
my hairdresser said. Yes,
Oh my, I
yes.
love that
So
that's the first thing that came to your head. That's so good.
to my head, no pun intended. The first thing that came to my head was that I have iron deficiency. That's why. And I'm
Oh my
European. That's why I need the full length of hair and arm hair possible. That's my answer because I'm
God. Okay.
European and I have low iron.
I love that. Okay. How does the Wicked Witch wash if she melts with water?
Oh boy. How does the wicked witch wash if she melts with maybe she doesn't wash.
Yeah, she's just
Maybe she
filthy.
doesn't. Yeah, maybe she's so wicked that she doesn't need to wash. The wicked witch doesn't wash.
No, I reckon she's just a filthy bitch.
Yeah, she's a wicked, filthy bitch.
I love it. Okay. Your third question. Are wild animals homeless because they don't have a home?
I don't know, ask that to the people on TikTok who find all these random dogs on the side of the street and now have 75 pets that poop all over their house. I mean, I think it depends on the person who's walking the streets of, a third world country collecting puppies and, poodles for a living versus someone like me who would walk outside and see we have bears in our neighborhood, but they're like habituated bears. They like walk down the street and they're like, what's up? Don't bother me. Like, I don't care. So I think they would think like this is their home, but I think that they're wild.
Yeah. I love that. I like that perspective. Like, throw it back on them. And if you guys are curious, head over to TikTok.
Go over to TikTok. Plenty of people petting broken dogs on the side of the street. Like, that's what they do.
I love it. Well, thank you so much for being here. It has been so awesome to chat to you.
I feel like we just had the time of our life. I didn't know those 3 questions were going to be asked. I feel like I need to meet your wife now. She is giving vibes. I love it. Thank you for having me.